Good evening, everyone. I want to make sure that everybody can hear me and that you can hear me clearly. Back of the room, we're good? All right. So now you got to remind me not to talk fast because you know what happens when I start taking in air and forget to breathe. So just give me a signal, okay? I do want to welcome you to the Forest at Duke Executive Staff Update. And I realize that we have people in the room, many of whom are new, residents new to our community. We have some soon-to-be residents in our community, and we have some EAP participants here. And I think I saw somebody on the wait list, but I could be wrong because you could have snuck in here when I didn't know it. So, but at any rate, I do know that there are people in the room who have never been to an executive staff update. And since I've been here, we've tried to do this meeting 6 ways from Sunday. We've had all the leadership team up here. It took 2 days. We've had a few people up here, and it was very focused. Then we had all the reports come in. We don't know which way is best, but we figured out we'd try this way this time and see. So I do have all of the leadership team here, so you can feel compelled when you have questions to ask the appropriate subject matter expert, because that ain't me. And so I have Karen, our CFO, Sarah Haney, Community Life, Sharon Pitt, Chief Operating Officer, Larry Williams, Human Resources, Nathan Summers, everything, Community Services, Tony Davis, the Executive Assistant, and Leanne Bailey Clayton, Health Services Director. April's on vacation, and Rashad has little kids. That means they go to school, they come home sick, everybody gets sick. So he's not here today. But we are glad to have you. The Executive Staff Update is something that occurs twice a year. It is part of the statute of the Department of Insurance that certifies continuing care retirement communities. Topic and subject matter is really at the discretion of the organization, but certainly it is 2 times that you have a 7-day notice meeting that occurs that really updates on where you are in the community. We tend to break them in 2 parts. Normally we would have done this last month, and the whole month ran out before we ever got there. And then we will do another one at the end of, or at the beginning of September. And that one is always focused on the new year, the budget, and all of those good things. As a function of this meeting, afterwards, on Thursday and Friday, we'll do 2 coffee and conversations that will focus on a couple of things we talk about today with a little bit more depth, and then be much more of a wide open conversation, if you will. The Executive Staff Update really is supposed to provide some information on the operations of the community, some of our key focus areas, programs and services for the year, and a brief outlook for the remainder of the year. So that's kind of the agenda and how we will go through things. We tend to focus on the calendar year, although our fiscal year starts from October through the end of September. But and we end up doing some kind of bridge somewhere in the middle of that. In addition to our directors, we do have a representative from our governing board, and that is Jim Friedman, who is, as president of the Resident Association, a full voting member of our governing board. Jim, thank you for being here. And I thought I saw Craig Daniels, but I don't think so. I might have seen him earlier today. But at any rate, just so you know, we have 3 resident board members on our governing board, which is affectionately called by residents the big board. Sometimes board is 2 syllables, board. And that is Ed Embry, Craig Daniels, and Jim Friedman. And they serve the chair of the Resident Association serves a 2-year term, consistent with the post. And the other members serve full 3-year terms and can serve 2 consecutive terms. So overall, the state of the forest, it's strong and it is focused. Currently, we are 98% occupied, but 99.8% sold. I don't know how we get to .8, but that's how the math works. And what it means is that we continuously have a feed for when we have an opening, apartments are sold or cottages are sold. There is a renovation process. The expectation is renovations usually take between 70 and 90 days. But there's a real clear kind of contract experience with when an apartment turns over, how it's renovated and moves forward. Thus far this year, we have added 82 persons to our wait list, and that's the Forest at Duke wait list separate and apart from the Terraces wait list, because until we're open, we have to keep those lists separate. As I said, our target this year was 60. Overall, on our active wait list, we have over 500 persons on that list, but we really focus on the 1 to 3 and the 3 to 5, because we always have some folks who are parked on the wait list, they're never coming. But their kids know they're on the list, and all is good. So, we also continue to see people who come into our early acceptance program, and a variety of reasons. Some folks are moving in with our new development, some people have moved in earlier, and some folks in early acceptance we may never see in our community. So again, it is reaching another market and expanding our resident base. We are on track this year to meet our target of 22 sales by year end, and actually we may actually exceed that, which is good, and that means we're not sitting with empty inventory. And I always want to remind you that the contract specifies that when somebody is signed up, et cetera, and ready to come, there's a period at which they then become liable for paying a monthly service fee, even if they haven't moved in. And we do have people who have said, great, I'm coming, and it's 6 months later and we haven't seen hide nor hair of them. They'll come when they're ready, but we don't change our contractual arrangement. You sign up, you're paying your monthly service fee with X amount of days. It's a date certain, that's when you begin occupancy, whether you choose to be present or not, okay? Our early acceptance program. And in the state of North Carolina, that's what they call continuing care without walls. Every other state calls it that. North Carolina calls it early acceptance. And those are people who live in community. They are considered residents by virtue of their contract. They have access to everything in our community, and they have access to assisted living and skilled care, either of which should they need, short-term or long-term. They are residents, they are a member of our community, and again, it's access to resources, and it screens out and is eligible from day one. So if something changes, no matter what, they will continue to come to our community, always at the appropriate level of care, never at the risk of not being accepted. So that's where we are there. And we're very excited because some of the residents and members of our early acceptance program, they are here so much and we see enough of them that we forget that they don't live here, and we love it. So we've been very blessed that way. The terraces, the reservations are on target. We're continuing to attract waitlist members, and transitions off the list are less than anticipated, with currently 5 apartments in offer status. Our expectation when you build a new development, and kind of the industry benchmark, is that any new development is going to be sold probably 1.5, if not 2 times before it opens. That is why with 71 apartments, we had 235 people on our list. We have had people move off the list, and in fact, we currently have 173 active charter members, which includes the 66 depositors. 33 depositors have withdrawn their reservation, and 10 of those are moving into the community, and 10 of those 30 have moved into the community earlier because they found something they liked and we had it available and we welcomed them here. And we had 5 persons withdrawing due to a death and or death of a spouse, and 2 withdrawing due to a change in their health status. And the final 16 actually looked at us and said, 2025 is just too soon, we're not ready. We all know that sentence, and we know they're going to be sorry, okay? And we continue to see active interest with people expressing interest and signing up as charter members. To date, our depositors have signed binding agreements on their residence, have paid 25% of their overall entry fee, and this fall they will complete clinic appointments and make an additional 25% deposit. We are on track for occupancy in summer of 2025. Construction continues to move forward, which kind of goes with the sentence of being on track. And the big crane, though, is coming down this weekend. And Nathan, is that Saturday? So Saturday, I don't know what we're doing. Is there a watch party? Or who knows? It's 152,000 degrees. Probably not. Nothing to see. So it'll just be gone. Okay. Well, I trust John. It will go without incident, so we'll be fine. And one of the things on the operations side, we have a solid working group of residents and leadership team members who are working together to make sure that we have a smooth process for integrating our new residents into our community and to welcome them and make sure that they are well partnered and informed as we move forward. And we really appreciate and want to give an appreciative shout out to the work of the Residents Association and its committees and their members, because they've been very thoughtful of how we make this community work and continue to work as it always has, and look at ways to make it better and make it easier, because this is change, this is more, and we're going to be in a great place, but we're doing it together, and we're very grateful for the help and assistance. So workforce challenge. That's the hottest, biggest ticket item that we've been dealing with. Where are staff? How do you get them? How do you keep them? Why do you have more of this and less of that? And many people have left the workforce in very different ways, and many people have decided that their expectations in the workforce are very different. We've actually encountered people, I'd love to work for you, but I'm going to tell you what hours I want to work, what days I want to work, and that schedule, it just doesn't work for me. That's called gig employment. It's the stuff that keeps your Uber driver and your DoorDash driver happy, but it doesn't work well in healthcare. And so we have been continuing and really focused as a team and with the support of our board, looking at how do we make sure that what we're doing is attracting people? How do we keep people? What did we need to change to make sure we're competitive in the marketplace? I will tell you that we have been very intentional over the past 3 years, making sure that we were becoming or achieving living wage status for all jobs and positions here, and I'm pleased to say that with the exception of about 8 jobs, we are there, and we will be there this year. And we've totally revamped how we look at orientation, onboarding, and getting people acclimated to being at the forest. Why are we a better place to be than our competitors? What's different about the forest? And part of that is really what employees really want to see more than anything else is to be in a place where they feel appreciated and valued for who they are, that they feel welcomed, that they feel that they can do their job well and have the tools to do that job well, and that when there's an issue, they are supported in having it resolved. As a leadership team, it became really important because nowadays people just search up and down Indeed and ZipJob and you name this, and it's a non-personal experience. And you get a lot of job shoppers that way, but you don't get a lot of longevity. And we decided we wanted to kind of get inside the head of the people who were coming here in such a way that we were making an investment in them, that they could see, hear, feel, and taste, if you will, and make that experience consistent with what we think is really good about the forest. So in changing our process, we now do orientation every week. We're not going to give you a chance to go somewhere else. We offered you the job, come in on Monday. Every Monday morning is orientation. That's getting the paperwork, that's the stuff, that's the I'm almost willing to have my eyes glazed over, except, unlike most companies that do that for 8 to 12 hours, we have narrowed it down, we've made it interactive, we've added people. It's the forest, what do you think we do? We eat. Thank you, Leanne. We feed them. But what we have found is that first day has felt like, there's a team of people here committed to making your job and your performance here successful, and that you know a little bit more than just fill out this paper because the so-and-so wants it, or this, that, and the other, but rather you have some interactive time and you have a chance to bond with the people you're coming in place with. The second day of work for a new employee is a departmental orientation. You may have done whatever you've done. You may have done it for Pruitt, you may have done it for, and of course I won't remember any of the other nursing homes here, or CCRCs, Carol Woods, Caroline Meadows. You may have done that there, but that's maybe not how we do it. So departmental orientation is really important. What do you need to know to do your job? How are you going to learn how to do it the way we want it done? How are you going to be supported in doing that? Who's your mentor? Who's your partner? What's it going to feel like to be a part of this? This is another element in welcoming someone, rather than saying, here's your hat, what's your hurry, learn your job, we know you got it. So again, we've been reaching for people and really trying to make that connection on a very personal level. And then one thing the leadership team did is we now meet with anyone who's hired in a month for lunch at the end of the month. Food, it's the forest. We meet with anyone who's hired in a month for lunch. And we do a round robin of discussion that has nothing to do with rules and forms and all of that good stuff. How's it going? Who are you? How many kids do you have? Where do you live? Where did you work before? They get a chance to know the leadership team. We get a chance to know them. And we have learned some amazing things about how people feel about coming into our community. We have been able to share bits of ourselves with people. We now see new employees in the hall, and nobody says, who's that? They talk. I think we've had many more conversations about people talking about what it has been to be their first month at the forest. What we have seen is much more happiness. We've also seen an increase in referrals. We've also learned some things. So I'm really pleased to tell you that we're in conversations because we have a lot of Spanish-speaking staff here who are really interested in taking English as a second language. With the help of one of our residents, I've had an opportunity now to reach out to someone who's going to help us structure a program so that it can happen during lunchtime at work, because if you're working and you have kids and you got to get home, you can't do it in the morning before work, and you don't have time after work. But in your lunch hour or your lunch half hour, et cetera, that's an opportunity if we can provide that kind of help and assistance for folks. That, again, was a suggestion that came from a new team member that happened in that relaxed environment. But what we also hear from our new hires is we also got referrals. So we had some young people who needed part-time jobs. They're now working for us. And you don't act the fool if your mother works here. But we also have seen some other relationships that were good for us, and I'll tell you about those in a minute. But we are also in the process of completing a revised branding and advertising campaign. One of the things our leadership team did was sat down and looked. We know how to recruit residents. We know where we have to go. We know who we have to talk to. We know what we have to say. We know what they need to know. Why don't we approach recruiting team members the way we recruit and market for residents? So we've been working with getting our message out there. We're going to use everything, and digital is included because you have to do that. But we're also going to go to some regular means of communication, whether that's a bus shelter wrap, that's advertising. I do know that people still read the paper because they're sold out every day. So looking at what's local, what's around, and how do we tell our story in the places where people live and other places where they can see and tell the story. We also have gone out and started to work with Durham Tech to do three things. Providing a place for workplace learning and apprenticeship opportunities. We also have done some work with making sure our students know what programs they have that can further accelerate their own internal learning and development. And we also said, look, you know, we're glad to do this, and we're glad to do interns and all of those things. We need to also be a job pipeline, because students need to work. And if we have an opportunity in jobs that are points of entry, you don't have to stay forever, but if we can pay you while you're in college and you're pursuing what you need to do, that's a good relationship. We are also working with, and Leanne, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Wisdom Academy? We are working with Wisdom Academy, and we are a training site for their CNAs, and that's smart, because that means Leanne and Caroline can look them over, and when they get certified, we can take the cream of the crop. And I think we've been quite successful there. But that is a contractual obligation, so that we are providing a training site, and we are their partners, and they are here frequently. So not only that, but they're learning to do what we want them to do the way we want them to do it. And then we have taken on professional interns. We currently have a social work intern. We're going to do an IT intern. Again, because in a continuing care retirement community, it's not just about the healthcare. There are several different business lines and opportunities for people, and we want to continue to make sure that people know that. And we do not pay student wages. If the job pays, whatever it pays, that's what we pay. We do have experience rates in some areas, but we don't undercut just because somebody's a student. We also have developed a partnership with Cristo Rey High School, and we do corporate work study. We take 4 students for the year. We had 1 this year in IT, 1 in marketing, health services, and community services. And this isn't about, oh, come to us 1 day a week, and if you're in community services, we'll let you go in dining and chop vegetables and pull trash or do dishes. This is about teaching someone about hospitality and the management of dining services, and what all is environmental services, and working with their interests. In IT, it's direct service. Our marketing person is going to be dangerous, because I think Ian could just sell a dog anything. He just keeps going. A really bright kid. And then Rose was in healthcare. And we continue to see that opportunity. These 4 students, they come once a week, and on the last Friday of the month, they come back 2 times that week, and for the entire year. And all 4 students we have went back and asked to come back here. But we created a really good, nurturing first job experience in a safe environment, elevating their awareness of the opportunity for career choices. And that's something in our industry that has not been done. And it's really important, because most people look and they see just a nursing home or just healthcare, and they don't see an opportunity to do other things. So we're really proud of the success of that program, and we will repeat next year. And then we focused on internal development of our own staff, because while we can recruit and do, we have to make sure that we have places and ways for people to grow and develop. And our internal development has focused on both hard and soft skills. You know, you don't get to be a supervisor because you're the last person standing. And if you are, that's probably not a good thing. But it is about, and it's not the skill of the job, because most people will know the tasks involved, but it's the soft skills. How do you talk to people? How do you treat people? How do you grow people? How do you create buy-in? And how do you deliver on goals, deliver on projects? How are you determinative in your professional development? Key contributors are a group of 6, soon to be 8 people, who may not be the very next in line, but they are people on our campus that we are grooming for next leadership. They are part of succession planning, and we are very invested in their learning, understanding policy, procedure, the industry, as well as gaining the skills to be a part of strategic planning, operational thinking, and revamp, and being able to partner with directors so that as we continue to roll things out in our community It's not one voice, but it's several voices and ways to reach people throughout the organization. We will continue with training to focus on our supervisors and managers and catching up for that void that kind of happened during COVID when we weren't in the same room talking and we were just working to get it done. So again, this opportunity has helped us to reclaim as an organization the things that we really cared about in terms of our values, our training, our consistency, and the ability to work together to not only get things done, but to take critical looks and be able to address issues and to do that collectively. Because if it all sits in one person, then somebody's going to just fall over and it still doesn't get done. But doing this together and in partnership with an expanded team gives us a strength that we did not have. So people have asked me about scholarships, and again, as post-COVID, students have returned to school, and we have noticed in our own organization that retention has improved, and so that employees are qualifying for assistance because you can't apply for a scholarship if you haven't worked here a year, and you have to be in good standing in your in your position. We currently have 10 persons on scholarship from the Catalyst program, and their areas of study include nursing, social work, business administration, leadership development, and we have one person who's pursuing a master's degree in communications. We have one team member who is receiving funds from the Boswick Scholarship, and that person is pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Business with a focus on accounting and finance. And we have 2 staff members in Leading Age Leadership Academy, which is both a state and a national academy, developing leaders' future in the industry of senior living, housing, and healthcare. It is focused on broadening leadership skills, developing networking skills, forward planning, strategic planning, and the ability not just to recognize the job that they do, but to be forward-looking in the industry and putting all of the components together in a way that allows them to be good and solid contributors to the overall organization as it looks beyond the immediate into the future as well. And we currently have 3 people in application for Catalyst Scholarship funds, so we will continue to process through that. We also do have people who approach us for tuition reimbursement, which covers tuition, books, and fees. Some people have chosen not to get a scholarship, but they've gone on and done what they need to do, but they've brought it back, and we've been able to honor that. So we continue to work with where the best fit is and how to honor that. But again, our team members are understanding that at the Forest at Duke, we are invested in them doing more and better and creating opportunities for people to continue to grow personally and professionally, and certainly to do that in the context of service to our community. Currently, the fund balances in the Catalyst Scholarship is $53,000. The Boswick Scholarship is $49,000, and the Boswick is a little bit, we distribute less because we distribute based on the interest so that we're preserving the principal there. We have a little bit more leeway with the Catalyst program. And as I said, we have the tuition reimbursement. I do want to tell you that we have some new programs coming, and one of those, what we have come to understand is over time, everyone moves into independent living, and it's great. And then there are transitions to either assisted living or healthcare, and it's traumatic. And it's a time when suddenly the stuff you didn't read becomes really important. Your kids are there, they don't know what you signed, they don't know what the process is. Leanne, please don't look at me and look confused. You're my expert. Okay, all right, okay. And no, you don't have to do the series right here. I'm just telling you about it. And so the request was, well, how do people move through the continuum? How can we make sure that people really understand what those steps and reasons are, and how does that happen? And so Leanne and her team and Dr. Little, the medical director, and the social workers, they got together and they really developed a program that is meant to educate our current residents to smooth transitions through the levels of care for them, to educate responsible parties, including your children, and to prepare future foresters so that they understand this is what we do. The lectures will be presented using our medical director, our social workers, members of the provider team, and on the topics that we've selected and have heard are most important to our residents. The series right now has 4 lectures. They will start in September, and I think the first lecture is Transitions at the Forest, and that's presented by the medical provider team, social work, and the director of health services, and it's really talking about transitions to the level of care. But other classes will be aging through the continuum. It's different than it used to be. It used to be, and well, I'm probably the only one who's been working at this long enough to say, in the good old days, is that, you know, if you had a broken hip and you went to the health center and you weren't out of there in, you know, the 14 days that Medicare allowed, you might be a permanent placement. Well, I know that many of you know if you have a hip replacement, all right, and that's taken care of, we don't even see you in healthcare anymore. And that the way people use healthcare is different. We got better body parts, better surgery, and in fact, rehab and things are just different. Plus, I would venture to say our resident population is healthier than the exact same cohort 15 years ago. So we're seeing that difference in terms of how people age, the services that support them, and how that happens. Also, we now have a home care agency on site, so we're able to provide support in ways that would mean that maybe someone doesn't have to move. And remember this, there is almost no such thing as an emergency move to healthcare unless you are a danger to yourself or others, okay? If you're going to skilled care, that's a process, unless you are acutely ill. If you're going to assisted living, that's a process, and it looks at success, it looks at support, it looks at that's not working, it looks at let's talk about this, it has you, the resident, your designated responsible party. It can even have all 4 of your children in the room if it needs to be. But it's a discussion, it's a process. And so we want to make sure that you know that. And then what's important about your care at the forest, and how do you know you're getting what you personally want, and who do you talk to and how do you get that? And that session is done with the social work team. And then the 4th class is dementia, aging, and aging in the system, and that is taught by our medical provider team. So we'll be doing 4 of these sessions. They will be available at different times, et cetera. We'll probably record them as well so that we can reuse them, and we will also provide some of that same information to people on our wait list, people who are imminently moving in, and certainly persons on our EAP team who may in fact use portions of our service as we go forward. And the goal is to make sure people understand not only what our process is, but what their options are as well. In smaller groups, with questions and answers, etc. And it is important that as we offer those sessions for your responsible party and or children, it is equally important that you have an opportunity for them to be there, because they often, at that point, don't know what you have chosen, may not know your contract. You may have chosen not to share that, but there may come a time when we need to, and it helps if they have some understanding of what is this thing that is the forest. It's not just a buffet and cheesecake. That's one of the things that we've got heading forward, and I just turned over papers, the wrong ones. Let's see. So that I wanted you to know about, and the other thing is I wanted to talk a little bit about, I am so sorry, I have totally confused myself. No, it's just gone, but here we go. The other thing we were, and part of taking care of our staff is we had, before COVID, we had a Forest Thrive program. And it had begun to get off the ground, and then it was just knocked back. But that was really about looking at our employees for health and wellness and well-being. It was looking at skills, opportunities. So you're looking at, some of our staff need to know about what is financial planning. How can I be better at that for myself? How can I take a look at retirement, which some employees are contemplating? I've got children that have special needs, I've got nutritional needs, I've got all kinds of things, but how do we get the things that allow us to be a resource to our employees so that they can take better care of themselves and or their families in ways that are easy and accessible and without cost? We may bring some folks in. Certainly our insurance providers will do some things for us. This is EAP again, but that's the Employee Assistance Program. And they provide some support to our employees here as well. So it's, again, creating an avenue so that when you think of the forest and you work here, you know that it's a place that creates opportunities for you to be cared for, respected, and it thinks beyond the moment of the job, beyond the moment of the 8 hours that you put in. And then we'll be bringing, the next is our community partners. We're going to be bringing them back in so that you can know who they are. For those of you who are new or don't know, the Forest at Duke has a responsibility on an annual basis to provide and meet a social accountability mandate of 5% of revenue. And that is met in a couple of ways: unreimbursed care, contributions in kind, use of services, and we do that by providing for not-for-profits in the Durham area an opportunity to meet here at no charge for the room, at cost for food, but if you need labor, we're going to charge you for that because we have to pay that. But really creating something for not-for-profits that don't have the resources to do a board retreat, but they could use our auditorium on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, or when it is not in use, and could be supported in that way. And then we also do direct grants and some sponsorships. We currently have 32 partners. And when I say that we have a responsibility of 5% of revenue, that is, with all of those three things combined, it needs to equal up to about 1.5 million annually. So of course, when we can do that in kind, and that's not cash out the door, when we can do that, we don't have a lot of unreimbursed care, but we have some, and we're able to meet that mandate as well. The Forest at Duke has met the mandate. We have done it consistently, and will continue to do so. In bringing our partners here, some of them will sponsor a social hour, but others, we're thinking of getting together in some affinity groups to look at volunteer opportunities and to educate our residents as well as our staff about what's available to people. One of the other things we do is each of the leadership team members is asked to certainly track volunteer hours, whether they participate on a committee or a board for a not-for-profit or do a special event. That is tracked, and that is also part of our social accountability, so that we are active members in the community. We are not allowed to count resident volunteerism, or we would have met that, in the first month of the year. But we're not allowed to count that towards our social accountability. And the last couple of things, I do want to remind everybody of the importance of our RA committees. Our committees are the way that the leadership team can partner with and work with residents around not only the good, but issues and resolution and possibility, and to hear more than one voice. You never want to be in a community where the only voice that's heard is the loudest voice, but rather the collective voice of those who work on committees around an issue, who are supported and kind of knowing more than just the surface, and really help us to be able to make good decisions, to create avenues of partnership, allow us to run things not only by, but also to hear things and inputs. And so I would encourage residents in the room and particularly if you're new, to seek out the resident association, seek out the committees, and find ways in which, if it interests you, because there's nothing worse than being voluntold. So if it interests you, finding something that is of a volunteer appeal, and know that those opportunities do exist in our community. I do want to talk just a little bit about We Care Connect, which is the survey process that we use, and I will talk in more detail at Coffee and Conversation. But I just wanted to give a quick overview. And to date, we've had a total of 443 residents who are available to do this survey. We've had about a 72% participation rate. Overall, year over year, we have seen increases on the positive side, and those increases have particularly spoken to the issue of resident satisfaction. Dining goes up and down, but it continues year over year, month over month to trend better. We had a couple of dips in there, but we seem to be recovering. Safety is on par and exceeds benchmarks. Move-in satisfaction, the same. Overall satisfaction is at 76%, and the 80+% is the benchmark, but that has been an improvement since the beginning. Sorry. Dining exceeds our benchmark. The benchmark is, and that's everybody who participates in this We Care Connect in the country. The benchmark in dining exceeds the 73%, and we exceed that. And if I had my glasses on, I could find it. Housekeeping also is at 82%, which is at the benchmark. Transportation is at actually higher. It was at 91%, I believe. And overall staff was 94, and community life was 95, which exceeds the benchmark of 94. All of our components that we look at overall satisfaction, each of the key areas of service, they are showing continuous improvement. What I do want to remind you is to please make sure you will get a text, email, phone call, any of those three things you got to choose. And we look at 45 days after move-in, 2 weeks, 45 days, and annually. And we have had a couple of issues where annually didn't happen for some people, but we were able to dig back in the database and make sure that that happened. And it is real-time feedback, and we are able then to follow up on issues. There are some things that trigger a response, and it is making sure that we can resolve things in real time. And that is important to us. The things that continue to be true overall is that people perceive this community as a very welcoming community, and we matched the benchmark of 98%. And safety, again, we continue to match the benchmark at 98%, but that was a growth from where we were a year ago. And we still, responsiveness, it goes up and down depending on where you are and what you're answering for, but overall the trend has been up. And as I said, I will talk about that more in Coffee and Conversation. We have found it to be a good system for us because it really lets us track in real time what we're doing and where we need to focus our attention. So we do appreciate your participation and want to remind you that participation is ongoing. We do need to do a better job of letting new members know that they're going to be surveyed, and these are the people who are calling, so we will continue to do that. The only other things that I have to share with you today is about the Department of Insurance. You may have known that in the past year, DOI rewrote its regulations, and it went before the General Assembly. It is now sitting in the House with 256 other bills that probably will not be resolved before they end the short session. It will come forward again in the long session. We have not heard any opposition to those changes. Those changes are asking for some more clarity, but also simplifying some of the processes that we go through to do that. The disclosure statement, I might remind you, is available to any resident at any time. It is done annually. It is about our community and our program. It does a 5-year projection on finances. It gives history, present, and future, and speaks to regulatory compliance and process. Do we keep a copy in the in the library? Yeah, that room. And it's on the website. So, and then of course you can look at it anytime in northcarolina.gov disclosure statements. So, and that's kind of really all that's going on at the forest and the industry. But I do want to, and Tony has taken notes, and she will have my notes. And so when we get all through with this, a copy of the notes from this meeting will be in communications and the library, and we are filming it, so we will be able to show it later. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Sarah has the mic, and please speak into the mic clearly. I have talked their socks off. Yes, ma'am.
Let me bring you the mic.
Is there a way we can know who the Catalyst recipients are? I mean, it would be great to like give them a high five, a pat on the back, like, reinforce their efforts.
They are actually, the question was, can we know who the Catalyst scholarships have gone to, et cetera? And yes, we can. I'm in the process of writing an update on that because I'm in the process of writing the annual appeal, which we just moved from Christmas because it gets buried with everything else. And the students and scholarship will be one of the primary things that we talk about. Well, I'm not going to fight with it if there are no questions. And we're here every day. So if you have a question, don't hesitate. This is not a shy group. I know that if something's working you, you'll let us know. But I do want to thank you for giving us your time this evening. I love that we have a full room, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Okay? I'm going to give you all of this.